So my date kept canceling at the last minute, and I was about ready to just give up on dating altogether. You know how it is when you work night shifts at a hospital lab. I practically never see sunlight anymore. My social life has basically been on life support for months. It's just me, test tubes, and the occasional grunt from Dave, the other night tech who's somehow even more socially awkward than I am. My coworker Jessica kept going on about how I needed to get back out there, like it's some kind of swimming pool I'm afraid to jump into rather than the nuclear wasteland that is modern dating. She shows me her friend Natalie's Instagram one night during our break. She's perfect for you, Jessica insists, scrolling through photos. I have to admit, Natalie was definitely my type, cute brunette with this big genuine smile. Lots of outdoors of pics hiking and kayaking. Not the filtered-to-death profile pics you usually see. Jessica gives Natalie my number, which would normally annoy me, but I was so desperate for human interaction that doesn't involve discussing blood samples that I was actually excited when she texted. We start messaging back and forth for about a week, and honestly, the conversation was good. Like, surprisingly good. She's funny, smart. Into all these obscure indie bands I thought only I listened to. We even had this hour-long debate about whether, in the airplane over the sea, is actually genius or just pretentious garbage. Anyone who can argue about Neutral Milk Hotel for that long is worth meeting. So we planned this dinner date for Friday night at this new Thai place downtown. I'm actually excited for a date for the first time in months. I even buy a new shirt, which is a big deal considering my wardrobe has consisted of scrubs and free hospital fundraiser t-shirts for the past 2 years. Friday morning comes. I'm getting ready for bed after my shift, and I'm actually having trouble falling asleep because I'm thinking about the date. But I have to cancel tonight. Family emergency. Can we reschedule? I'm disappointed, obviously, but these things happen, right? Family emergencies are legitimate reasons to cancel plans. I'm not a monster. I text back saying no problem, hope everything's okay, let me know when things settle down. Jessica asks about the date during our next shift together, and I tell her what happened. She frowns and says, "That's weird. Natalie didn't mention anything about a family emergency to me." But then she shrugs it off. I'm sure it was something minor that came up last minute. I try not to read too much into it, as we reschedule for the following Wednesday. I spend my entire Tuesday night shift thinking about the date, instead of focusing on the lab work. Dave actually has to remind me to run the cultures twice, which is humiliating coming from someone who once forgot he was wearing his lab coat at the grocery store. Wednesday morning rolls around. I'm about to head to bed, feeling good about seeing Natalie that evening. Then my phone pings. Another text. Really sorry, but I caught this nasty stomach bug. Need to reschedule. Seriously? Again? I'm starting to get annoyed, but I mean, nobody wants to date someone who might suddenly vomit across the table. So fine, I suggest the weekend instead, and she agrees to Saturday lunch. Casual. Low-key. Perfect. Saturday comes. I'm actually ready to leave my apartment, keys in hand, when my phone buzzes again. Car broke down on the highway, waiting for a tow truck. At this point, I'm definitely suspicious. This is either the unluckiest woman alive, or she's just not interested and doesn't have the guts to say it to my face. I offer to pick her up, trying to call her bluff. She texts back that she's going back home because she's too stressed now. Right. I'm starting to think she's playing some kind of next-level ghosting strategy, not brave enough to just disappear, but too conflict-avoidant to admit she's not interested. Meanwhile, I'm the idiot who keeps falling for these increasingly elaborate excuses. Family emergency? Sure. Stomach bug? Happens to everyone. Car breakdown? What is this? The final act of a romantic comedy where the protagonist has to overcome one last obstacle. The next day at work, I tell Jessica about the situation while we're processing samples. She gets this confused look and says, "That doesn't sound like Natalie at all. She's genuinely interested in meeting you. She's been asking me about you." Right, because nothing says interested like canceling 3 times. I roll my eyes so hard, I nearly strain an ocular muscle. She's just had a rough month. Jessica insists. "Trust me, she's into you. Give her one more chance." Against my better judgment, I agree. Maybe I'm desperate. Maybe I'm a hopeless romantic. Maybe I'm just tired of eating microwave dinners alone while watching reruns of medical dramas and pointing out all the inaccuracies. Fine, I tell Jessica. One more chance. We plan a simple coffee date for Sunday afternoon. Super casual, low pressure. A coffee shop just a few blocks from my apartment. So even if she cancels, I've only wasted a 5-minute walk. I figure morning coffee is less of a commitment than dinner, easier to escape if things go badly, which seems to be her primary concern. Sunday arrives. I show up 15 minutes early because punctuality is my love language or whatever. I grab a table by the window, order a coffee, and wait anxiously. Each time the door opens, I look up like a puppy hearing the treat bag rustle. 10 minutes past our meeting time, no sign of her. 20 minutes late, still nothing. No text, no call. I'm about to give up, toss my cold coffee, and accept my fate as a future cat dad when my phone buzzes. I'm so incredibly sorry. On my way now, 5 minutes. I stare at the text, debating whether to stay or go. Part of me wants to leave, to give her a taste of her own medicine, but curiosity wins out. I decide to wait the 5 minutes. What's 5 more minutes of my life at this point? Sure enough, 5 minutes later. She rushes in looking flustered, slightly out of breath. She spots me and hurries over, apologies already spilling out. I am so sorry about being late and about all the cancellations. Her voice isn't what I expected. It's lower, more melodic. But her eyes are exactly like her photos, warm brown with tiny flecks of gold. Actually, she's prettier than her photos, which is rare enough to be noteworthy in the age of filters and strategic angles. Despite the rocky start, conversation flows surprisingly easily. She asks thoughtful questions about my work, laughs at my dumb lab jokes, shares stories about her job as a graphic designer. 2 hours pass in what feels like minutes. The awkwardness of her lateness fades as we discover shared interests in obscure podcasts and true crime documentaries. She's engaging, attentive, and weirdly normal for someone who seems so flaky. When our coffees are long finished, she glances at her watch and says, "I'm actually really hungry. Since we're having such a good time, want to grab dinner?" I hesitate for a split second, remembering the emotional roller coaster of the past week, but something about her seems genuine. "Sure," I say. Thinking the worst that can happen is another weird cancellation story to tell my lab buddies. We walk to a nearby restaurant, one of those casual American bistro places with decent burgers. The conversation continues to flow as we order, share an appetizer, and trade stories about nightmare roommates from college. Halfway through the meal, her phone rings. She glances at it, and I watch as her face changes completely, the easy smile vanishing, replaced by something tense and worried. "I'm so sorry. I have to take this," she says, already standing. She steps outside for the call, and I find myself staring at her empty chair, wondering if this is just another elaborate exit strategy. Is she even coming back? Maybe she called an Uber and is halfway home already. I'm mentally composing the bitter text I'll send Jessica when Natalie walks back in, looking upset. I'm really sorry, but I have to go, she says, gathering her purse. Not this again. I feel my frustration boiling over. Seriously, I can't keep the edge from my voice. What is it this time? Another family emergency? Another car breakdown? I'm getting tired of being jerked around. As soon as the words leave my mouth, I regret them. I'm not usually this confrontational. But 3 cancellations and now a dinner cut short? It's too much. Natalie hesitates, looking like she's wrestling with something. Then she sits back down and takes a deep breath. My mother has early onset Alzheimer's, she says quietly. That was my dad on the phone. She's having an episode. The silence between us stretches as I process this information. She continues. Her voice steady but strained. She sometimes wanders off, gets confused. She can be combative when she's disoriented. Dad can't always handle it alone. She looks down at her half-eaten meal. All the cancellations were related to this. The family emergency was Mom disappearing from the house while Dad was in the shower. The stomach bug was actually me staying up all night helping look for her. The car breakdown was real. But it happened because I was rushing to help Dad find her after she wandered into a neighbor's house. She tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, not meeting my eyes. I feel embarrassed about the whole situation. I don't usually tell people I'm dating about it right away. It tends to scare them off. She looks up at me finally. I understand if you want to bail. Most guys do when they realize what they're signing up for. The pieces click together, the cancellations, the apologetic texts, the genuine connection when we finally met. She wasn't playing games. She was dealing with something incredibly difficult and trying to have a normal dating life alongside it. I look at her, clearly exhausted and stressed, waiting for my response. The right response seems obvious. Let me drive you to your parents' place, I offer. Surprise registers on her face, like she was expecting me to make an excuse and disappear. She nods gratefully. I pay the bill while she gathers her things, and we head to my car. The drive across town is quiet, with her occasionally giving directions. We pull up to a nice suburban neighborhood. Older homes with well-kept yards. Natalie points to a small blue house with all the lights on. An elderly man is waiting anxiously at the door. That's my dad, she says as we park. She introduces us briefly. His name is Robert, and he seems like a kind man, clearly worried but managing a quick handshake and thank you for bringing his daughter home. We go inside. And I meet her mother, Helen. She's a sweet-looking woman in her 60s, currently calm but clearly confused. She keeps asking who I am every few minutes, and Natalie patiently answers each time as if it's the first. Natalie is gentle with her mother, helping her settle into the living room with a TV show she seems to recognize. She clearly knows exactly what to do, which remote buttons work best, which shows keep her mother calm. There's a routine here that she knows by heart, while her mother gets absorbed in the show. Natalie pulls me aside near the kitchen. I'm sorry again for everything, she whispers. This is why dating has been complicated for me. She runs a hand through her hair. Exhaustion evident in every movement. I promise we'll actually finish a date sometime. I look around the house, family photos everywhere, a medication chart on the fridge. Sticky notes with reminders on door frames. This is her reality, one she's been managing while trying to have some semblance of a normal life. It's okay, I tell her. I understand now. The drive home is strange. I feel a mix of emotions I can't quite sort out. Sadness for her situation, admiration for her dedication to her family. A strange sense of shame for how quickly I judged her. By the time I get back to my apartment, I've made a decision. I text Natalie the next day, suggesting our next date be at her parents' house. I'll bring takeout, and we can eat together with her folks. Her response comes quickly, surprise and gratitude evident even through text. 3 days later, I'm sitting at their dining table with containers of Italian food I picked up on the way. Helen is having what Natalie calls a good day. She's present, telling stories from Natalie's childhood that make her daughter blush and me laugh. Robert seems different too, less tense, smiling more, clearly appreciative of having another person to talk to. After dinner, I help clean up while Natalie and her dad get Helen ready for bed. I do the dishes, listening to their gentle voices from the other room, the familiar rhythm of a family routine. When Natalie comes back to the kitchen, she looks at me differently, like she's seeing something she didn't expect. I become a regular visitor over the next few weeks. Sometimes it's an actual date with Natalie. Sometimes it's just me coming over to help out. I learn about Alzheimer's, about the progression, about ways to help. I notice how exhausted Natalie and her dad always seem. They're taking all the burden themselves out of love and necessity. One night, while Helen is asleep and Robert is watching TV, I suggest to Natalie that we look into part-time care options. I don't think we can afford that, she starts, but I pull out my phone and show her some research I've done. Together, we find an affordable program that could give them all some breathing room. 3 months into whatever this relationship has become, we finally have an uninterrupted date, a picnic at a park while Helen attends her New Day program. Natalie seems lighter, happier. Sitting on the blanket, she takes my hand and says, "Having someone who understands makes all the difference." I squeeze her hand, realizing how much my life has changed since that first canceled date. 6 months in, I'm practically living at their house, helping with the morning routine before heading to my night shift. Robert pulls me aside one day while Natalie is getting ready. "Thank you for not running when things got hard," he says quietly. "You'd be surprised how many people disappeared when they saw the reality." He tells me Natalie canceled on dozens of dates over the past 2 years, always putting her family first, never complaining once. 1 year later, we move in together, an apartment close to her parents' house. With her mother now in a day program, everyone has some breathing room. Natalie is finally finishing her degree that she'd put on pause, taking online classes at night while I'm at work. We have a wedding planned for next spring. It'll be a small ceremony. Her mom might not remember it, but we'll take photos to show her every day. Sometimes the people who seem flaky have the best reasons for canceling. Sometimes the ones who can't prioritize dating are the ones who really understand what priorities are. Life isn't always convenient. Real love rarely starts perfectly. I'm grateful she kept trying despite everything working against her. I'm grateful I gave her one more chance. I could have missed out on someone special, all because of some canceled dates. Looking back at those first few weeks of frustration, I realize how easy it is to make assumptions about people, to write them off based on behaviors we don't understand. If I had followed my initial instinct, to assume Natalie wasn't interested or was playing games, I would have missed out on the most meaningful relationship of my life. What I thought was flakiness was actually dedication. What seemed like disinterest was her struggling to balance her family responsibilities with her own needs. The very thing that frustrated me about her, the canceled dates, was evidence of the quality I now admire most, her unwavering commitment to the people she loves. When Natalie's mom has a clear moment and recognizes me, calling me by name and thanking me for being there for her daughter, it feels more meaningful than any conventional relationship milestone. And when her dad hugs me and calls me son, I know I've found my family. Sometimes the most challenging beginnings lead to the most beautiful stories. Sometimes what tests your patience early on is precisely what will later test your character and ultimately reward your heart. And sometimes, just sometimes, a date that keeps canceling at the last minute turns out to be the best date you'll ever have.